Hi, I'm Douglas C. Welch, host and writer of Career Opportunities, a long-running online and print column, and also a podcast now entering its fifth year in September. Today, I want to talk to you all here for CareerCamp about a year of leadership. And that was my first column of 2009. And just to give you a little background, I really hadn't planned on setting up yearly themes over the last 3 years, but 3 years ago, it occurred to me in 2007 that I needed a little more direction in my life. I work at home, I work out of the home, and I don't connect with my community often enough. And so I made a real effort in 2007 to really reach out, reconnect with the tech community here in town, reconnect with other communities, and I did that, and it really did benefit me. In 2008, I was speaking at CareerCamp San Diego, and it struck me between the two nights, the Saturday and Sunday, I was sitting in the hotel room and said, you know what, this is a year of visibility, where it's important to make people understand what you do and how well you do it. So that became the theme for 2008. Well, when I started 2009 and I was writing that first column of the year, I very quickly realized that leadership was going to be the theme for 2009. In fact, leadership could be the most important skill you cultivate this year. And you need to exercise it in large and small ways, especially the small ones, which I'll talk about in a little bit. Leadership is what makes you different from those around you. It's what makes you different from the person down the hall, in the next cube, in the next company, in the next world. Frankly, over the years, we have seemingly forgotten how to lead. We begin to think that leadership's only something that you do that gets done at the most highest levels of government or in the highest levels of your company, only up there in the executive suites. It's something done by other people. Well, the fact is, though, leadership is done by you every day, right where you are. You can't wait for someone else to lead. In fact, that's what's gotten us into a lot of the trouble we've been in the last few years. We've all depended upon other people to pick up the reins and to make things right. And this is how we end up with debacles like the Enron fallout, the mortgage crisis, the economy crisis we're in right now, the Bernie Madoff Ponzi scheme. We're all expecting someone else to stand up and say, oh, you know what, that's not right, that's wrong, you need to stop doing that, or we need to do something else. Well, we sit around twiddling our thumbs, typing away on our computer screens, and doing nothing about it. Again, I want to reiterate, there is no one else who can practice leadership for you. That's a scary thought, because it puts all the onus back on us. It puts all the onus back in our own laps to say, oh, guess what? I have to be the one to stand up and actually do something. Well, it is scary, but it's also very, 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 I can't say this enough, very important that you do it. Now, leadership is part of our DNA. It's part of us. Go back to the earliest history of man, and you will see someone there practicing leadership. They had to. It was a survival skill. Leadership meant that they were able to live from one season to the next, from one day to the next. They had to stand up and lead their own lives or surround themselves with other leaders as well. Now, I know a lot of you are thinking probably right now, my God, Doug's out of his mind. I don't have any power. I don't have any power in my job. I don't have power in my life. I don't have any power over anything. I just get pushed from one thing to the other. How can I practice leadership? The fact is, you do have power, and you have a very important type of power. You have the power of the good example. You can live your life the way you would like life to be, and you can live the example that you would like other people to be living as well. You have the power to do good in the world. I don't care what your position, I don't care what you do, who you do it for, where you do it, you have the power to do good, both for yourself and for the world around you. And it's in the small, everyday efforts that really make the difference in how you do good in the world. One of the things that I came up with talking the other day, I was being interviewed about this concept of a year of leadership, was, well, how can I practice leadership? And it sounds like a ludicrous example, but I came up with the fact that when I worked in a corporate office, one of the biggest problems each day was where were we going to go for lunch? We couldn't even figure out collectively where we were going to go for lunch, let alone the big budget crisis that was heading our way or the huge IT project that was faltering or whatever. That to me said so much. And I believe I read somewhere probably this idea, and I just decided to put it into place, which is when someone asks you to make a decision, when someone asks you to lead, they're literally offering you the opportunity to lead. You need to do it. If the group is confused about where to do lunch, guess what? Say, hey, we're going to go here. And you know what? 9 times out of 10, they're all going to go, yeah, okay, let's go. Groups need a leader. They need someone to point them in the right direction. And frankly, a lot of people out there are looking to be led. And this is an opportunity for you to do that. So the next time the lunch question comes up, just say, hey, we're going to my favorite place. That's what we're doing. And I will almost guarantee you, people will follow you and you will have experienced that thrill of leadership. I hope it's not for the first time, but it will definitely give you a taste for leadership and what it means to be a leader. Even just, I know it sounds silly, but it's a small thing, but it can really help you move on your way to bigger and better things. Now, something that I am saying to everyone these days, and I think you need to say it too, because it's an important thing that gets in the way of leadership, and that is obstructionism. Getting in the way of things should not be accepted at any level. There's an old statement that says, lead, follow, or get the hell out of the way. And you know what? This is something we really need to start living by. I see so much today. You can look to our current, the passage of the stimulus bill in the Congress and our budget crisis here in California, and you can see people who, for whatever reason, are being strictly obstructionist. They're not presenting any better ideas. They're not presenting any different ideas. They're just saying no. And I think you can look back over the last decade and where we are now and see where no has gotten us. Obstructionist has ground us to a halt to the point where nothing gets done. And frankly, another reason why leadership is so important is the people who get things done in the next 10 years are going to be the successful people. The people who are being obstructionists will be seen as being obstructionists and will be minimalized. They'll be bypassed. There's a great quote about the internet that says, the internet senses censorship, blah, 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 whatever word you care to input there, as damage and routes around it. Obstructionists will be seen as damage and they will be routed around. And I'm telling you, you should be one of those people routing around the damage of obstructionism. You need to call it out where you see it. You need to identify it to other people and say, this is merely being an obstructionist attitude. We need to get around this because we have to do something. Doing nothing is simply no longer an option. I really want to hammer that home to you. Doing nothing is simply not an option any longer. One of the reasons people become obstructionists, at least in my experience, is because they're either trying to hide from a leadership role, they're trying to say, hey, not my fault, not my problem, this is the problem, or they're trying to pervert leadership for their own ends. They're trying to control the majority even though they have a minority position. Be on the lookout for that. Now the fact is, and I know this, leadership can be uncomfortable. It can mean standing up to people. It can mean making decisions that you then have to deal with the consequences of. That's part of leadership. Again, though, it is extremely important that you do it. Now, it might mean risking your job. Now, that's fine. Risking your job is always scary, but it might mean risking your job, but saving your career. In past columns on career opportunities, I've talked about the difference between a job and a career. A job is sort of what you're doing right now. A career is what you do over the lifetime of your work. It is the sum total. And sometimes we have to sacrifice our job for the betterment of our career. And leadership is an important part of that. Again, to reiterate what I said before, don't think that leadership is somebody else's problem. It isn't. It's your problem. It's my problem. It's everybody's problem. We all need to practice leadership and address these problems. one of my big issues with corporations, large corporations, is that inherent in their organization is the ability for people to say, well, I'm not the one screwing over that person. I'm just a cog in the machine over here. That's someone else. That's the executives. That's the company screwing someone over. Like the company is an entity in itself. Now, frankly, legally, yes, corporations are an entity. They're almost a human being. And just like a human being, corporations can be, well, let us say, dysfunctional. It is up to the people in that corporation to sense that dysfunction and work against it. If you don't stand up and take the leadership to act against that dysfunction, you are a huge part of the problem. Don't believe me? Well, ask all the people at Enron. Ask all the people who've been involved in some great scandal or some great failure. Guess what? In their heart of hearts, I think all of them know that they were part of the problem. They, at some point, had the ability to stand up and say, no, this is not right, this is not the way to do this, and they didn't do it. They didn't exercise the leadership necessary to bring this to an end. Some people, in the case of Enron, did try. They ended up with a lot of trouble. It was very risky for them. It was very scary for them. But you know what? They were right. No matter what happened to Enron, it wasn't their fault. They were right. They were calling out the issues that needed to be addressed. They were just being ignored. In the column I wrote for A Year of Leadership, I used a phrase, conquering your fear over laissez-faire. Laissez-faire is that term usually applied to the economy, means to let be. Oh, it's just going to just let it be. It'll all work out in the end. Frankly, there's a whole series of books about don't sweat the small stuff, and I started to read those and I realized, but if you don't sweat the small stuff, then nothing ever gets done or fixed or corrected. So I have an issue with those books in that way. You need to conquer your fear. You need to get over that, well, I'll just sit here and let things be. I'll just let things go. No, for your own benefit and for those around you. And I don't mean just those next to you in the cube. I mean those in the whole country and the whole world. It depends on you. It depends on me. It depends on everyone to practice personal responsibility and personal leadership. Now, going back to the topic about power. I don't have any power. Well, the fact is, you have more power than you know if you decide to reach out and take it. Oftentimes, as I said before, there are people who are simply advocating their leadership role. They don't want to lead. They don't want the responsibility. They don't want the blame. They want to hide in their little office, close the door, and let the world kind of go on around them. Well, that's fine, and it actually provides an opportunity for you. Because when people advocate their need to lead, you have the ability to step into that vacuum and take much more power than you might typically have. So how can you do that? Well, one of the first things to do is take on a faltering project. If you see a project that's failing, for whatever reason, especially if it's failing due to lack of leadership, stand up. Take it on. Go to your boss. Go to your boss's boss. Say, you know what? I think I can take this project on and make it a success. And do it. Scary? Oh, of course. You bet. You're putting your butt on the line. But you know what? You have so much to gain from that opportunity and relatively little to lose. Because the fact is, oftentimes large projects that are off the tracks have the ability to suck down the entire company. So what does it matter if you might lose your job if the company itself might disappear? So look for those opportunities. Look for those projects and opportunities where things are going very, very badly and step up and take control of them and see what you can do. Solve an intractable problem in the company. Take the customer support complaints you're getting and take the biggest question you get every day. Say you're working on help desk. Take the biggest question you get every day and solve it. Make it go away. Make it so the number of calls you receive on that particular problem drop to as close to zero as you can get. That's leadership, and that's an important thing to do for your company because it's going to free up all sorts of energy. It's going to free up all sorts of money, and people are going to look at it and go, wow, she solved that problem? Oh my God, this person must be really on the ball because they've been staring at that same problem for months, years, whatever, and never identified the problem or never figured out a way to solve it. So step up again. If you see a solution to an intractable problem like that, take advantage of it. Step in. Thirdly, If you have a specialized expertise in something, don't keep it to yourself. This goes back to last year's theme of visibility. Tell people what you do and how well you do it within your company, within your department, within the world, whatever. This is the whole reason that blogging and other types of social media for me are so important. It allows me to share my expertise. It allows me to tell people what I do and how well I do it. And frankly, if you want to build the career you deserve, that's what you need to be doing. So share your expertise. Set up a wiki inside your company. Start an email newsletter within your department. Start blogging, start Twitter, whatever works for you. Share your expertise, because someone is going to come to you and say, wow, you know all this stuff? I want you to work for me. I mean, it's my own personal experience. When I worked at a large corporation, I was under the threat of layoff for basically 4 of the 5 years I was there. And in one time it caught up with me. I got laid off from my job. But I also, in the same hand, got a job offer from a different department. Because I had shown them my skills over the years that I'd been there, I'd shown them exactly what I did and how well I did it, so that they were very confident, saying, you know what, you may not need him in the big corporate IT department, but we need him over here in our own personal department. And that allowed me to continue my career there for another 2 years. Again, under the threat of layoff the whole time. I worked for a large corporation that has what I call a binge and purge mentality. They staff up for projects and then they lay off, and they staff up and they lay off. So it's just a simple fact of life working for that company. But because I was visible, because I was out there sharing my expertise, I was able to move from one job to another. And in fact, these days, as a computer consultant, that work that I do as a computer consultant and a new media consultant, I work entirely on referral. If I didn't tell people what I did and how well I did it, if I didn't have my clients reaching out to their networks and telling people what I did and how well I did it, I wouldn't have a career, I wouldn't have a job, I wouldn't have any way of making income. So it becomes very, very important. To close up today, I really want to reiterate a couple of things that I've said in the whole talk, which is leadership could be the most important skill you cultivate this year. It really could be. I really, truly believe that. And I think if you delve into leadership, if you start taking those opportunities, you'll see that to be the case as well. Because the people who succeed this year are the people who are getting things done, making things happen. The people who are obstructionists will be minimized because they're simply, we don't have the luxury of being obstructionist in an economy that's in crisis like it is right now. Your job, your career, your opportunities for leadership are under your control. They really are. I don't know how to reinforce this anymore. They really are. Because at the very basic part of your life, getting up in the morning and putting on your clothes and sitting down and having your coffee, leadership is available at that level. You can provide a good example. You can do what you need done for yourself, and in doing that, provide an example to other people. Finally, it is vitally important that you use leadership to build the job, the career, and even the life that you deserve. That's actually the subtitle, the tagline for Career Opportunities, helping to build the career you deserve. And I truly believe that leadership is an amazing part of building, at the very end of it, the life you really deserve. You deserve more out of life. We all do. We all deserve more than what we get. But no one's going to come and give it to us, hand it to us on a silver platter. We have to reach out. We have to grab it. We have to take the bull by the horns, to use a really bad metaphor, cliche, whatever, and make it happen. And that's all. That's what leadership's all about. Doing something, making it happen, and building the life that you deserve. Thanks so much for watching today. Thanks for joining us at Career Camp. Again, if you're watching this in the Career Opportunities feed, please visit Career Community at welchwright.com. And I'll put it down here at the bottom. careercommunity.welchwright.com to see all the great Career Camp content and information. I hope I have convinced you to go out and lead today. Thanks for watching, and have a great time at Career Camp.